Good morning and a warm welcome to the students of Smt.R.S.Kalaria, Primary School English Medium, Junagadh. My name is Rajshree Lakhani and today we are going to start with a new chapter of history whose name is the Freedom Movement of 1857 CE. Now in this particular chapter we are going to study about, now in our country India, many European countries that were French, Britishers, Dutch, Portuguese, Sultan, Mughals, they were not the Sultan and Mughals were not the Britishers or the European countries, but they just invented, just came to our country India with the intention of the trade, and slowly and gradually they started ruling in our country India. So here the European countries that were Portuguese, Dutch, French and many more came to our country India, and slowly and gradually, as we don't have unity in ourselves, they started ruling in our country India. But more probably the Britishers, the Britain country just ruled in our country India for more 90 years and stayed in our country India for more than 200 years. Now in this particular chapter, first of all, we are going to start with the introduction. Then, what were the reasons for the revolt of the 1857? Now, the revolt of 1857 was the first revolt against the Britishers. Battle of Plassey was the first fight against the Britishers that was being started by Robert Clive. And in the Battle of Plassey, he defeated the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowla, and later on the political power started by the Britishers in our country India. But by this particular revolt, that was a revolt of 1857, their ruling, their crown system started in our country India. And from the year 1857 to 1947, they ruled in our country India. Now here in this particular topic, we are going to study about the 5 reasons for the revolt of 1857. Then the third point, planning of the revolt, and we are going to study about Mangal Pandey. Mangal Pandey was the first person who became first martyr in the revolt of 1857. Later on, we are going to study about the spreading of the revolt and who were the leaders who played a very vital role for the contribution and the spreading of the revolt of 1857. Now in our Gujarat, what was the particular consequences and what were the effects of the revolt of 1857 in our Gujarat? Now how then was the ending of the revolt, and apart from that, why the revolt of 1857? Battle of Plassey was the failure battle, and the reason behind that was Robert Clive just gave a bribe to Mir Zafar, who was commander-in-chief in the army of Siraj-ud-Dowla, by saying that if you are going to support me to defeat Siraj-ud-Dowla, then we are going to just make you the next Nawab after the murder of Siraj-ud-Dowla. By this way, they started out, as we from the early ages we don't have unity among ourselves. Here, with the support of Mir Zafar, Robert Clive defeated Siraj-ud-Dowla and had a murder of Siraj-ud-Dowla in Battle of Plassey. That was the turning point for the Britishers to start their political power in our country India. Now here also we are going to study that why the first revolt, that was a revolt of 1857, was considered to be the failure one. And in the last topic we are going to study about the effects of the revolt. So let us start with first of all the introduction. Now let us first of all start with introduction. Now why war the revolt of 1857 started in our country India? Now here with the different policy, with the different discoveries started in our country India, that creates a nationalism in our country India. Now here we are going to first of all study about the nationalism emerged in India due to not only the arrival of the Europeans but also by the behavior, by different policy, that was Diwani right policy, divide and rule policy, subsidiary alliance policy, doctrine of lapse policy, annexation policy, different policy which was being started by the Britishers in our country India, that creates a nationalism in among the people people of our country, India. Now here, the behavior, we were not never ever just having any of the problem related to any of the European countries who were having the trade relation with our country, India. But once there was a rule in Agra that any of the British officer coming on the road or on the way, each and every citizen have to salute that particular person, that particular British officer. If they are not doing, then they are considered to be criminal, and that particular person is being put into the jail. So their behavior was not bad with us in our country, India. They were just having very bad behavior for the people, among the people of our country, India. And the policy which I have just said you, the different policy which were the benefit for the Britishers, but having a great loss to the people of our country, India. Now the second reason, the main reason for the revolt of 1857 CE was the widespread dissatisfaction among the people of our country, India. So now let us start the 5 reasons for the revolt of 1857. Now first of all, we are going to study about the social and religious reason. Now Britishers, for example, Lord Dalhousie, when came to our country, India, become the Governor General of our country, India, he started many of the things for the smooth administration of British East India Company, and a great facility to be given, to be allotted to the British government. So this person started the first railway line that was from Mumbai to Thane in the year 1853. Later on, this person in the year 1854 started model postal system, telegraph system. Apart from that, he started printing press and many more things for the smooth administration for the British East India Company. Later on, this person started 3 universities in our country, India, in the year 1857. That was Mumbai, Chennai and Kolkata, to spread English education in our country, India. So by this particular thing which was being started by the Britishers, not only by Dalhousie, but many of the things which was being started by many of the Governor General of the Britishers, that creates a separation or surprise, and we the people of our country, India, were feeling insecurity and suspicion about the particular policies and the behavior of the Britishers. And many orthodox people just come to realize, and they were noticing that Britishers want to demolish our Indian culture and want to convert ourselves into the Christianity by the English education, by the facility of the railway lines, with the printing press, postal system, telegraph system. We come to realize, and we were admiring, the orthodox class people were admiring, that they want to kill our Indian culture, and they wanted to change our Indian culture into the Christianity. So already we have studied about the social and religious reason. Now here, economical reason. Now Britishers, when they came to our country, India was called as the golden sparrow, because we were having a lots of gold. Along with that, we were having best in agriculture in our country, India. So they just admire that in this country, India, if along with the trading we are going to start ruling in this country, India, then we can just increase the prosperity of the England. And because of that only, they started the particular, first of all, with the Diwani right that was being started by Lord Cornwallis. Diwani right was a particular after the Battle of Buxar, that was in the year 1764. After the defeating of Mir Qasim in Battle of Buxar, Lord Cornwallis introduced Diwani right in our country, India. In that particular Diwani right, it was a rule that they have to collect, Britishers were collecting the land revenue from the peasants, from the farmers, according to their annual income. They are having profit, they are having loss, but finally, by hook or crook, they had to pay the taxes to the British East India Company. Now, during that time, the landlords were given the responsibility to collect the revenue from the farmers. Later on, as time went on, it was a rule made by the Britishers that landlords also have to pay the tax according to the land revenue. According to their land, the landlords also have to pay a tax. So the two category of the people, that were the farmers and landlords, have to pay a high amount of the taxes to the British East India Company and the government, and because of that only, that was the reason that they just joined the revolt of 1857. Later on, the third reason, that was the political reason. Now in our country India, after the Battle of Buxar, that was in the year 1764, the first policy was being introduced by Lord Cornwallis, that was this Diwani right to collect the revenue. Later on, Lord Dalhousie or Wellesley just introduced subsidiary alliance policy, which just which people realized to be a slow poison for the people, for the rulers of our country India. Then Dalhousie introduced the doctrine of lex, where the adopted child was not allowed to sit on the throne, and that becomes the rulers who become the victims of this doctrine of lex was Kunwar Singh of Bihar and Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi just become the victim of doctrine of lex, because Dalhousie have made a rule that adopted child is not allowed to sit on the throne. So after doctrine of lex, with the policy of annexation, they were snatching away the states, the empire of the particular rulers who were not having their own child. So by this particular different policy, that was Diwani right, divide and rule policy, subsidiary alliance policy, then apart from that doctrine of lex, annexation policy, that creates a very great impact in the internal and external affairs of the rulers, and because of that only many of the rulers whose states were being annexed by different policy which was being introduced by the Britishers in our country India, they become the part of the revolt of 1857. Now the fourth topic, that is the military reason. Now in our country India, we were having during the early ages also, and nowadays also we are having a great amount of, we are having a great strength of the population in our country India. Now here during the early ages, comparing with the Britishers, we were having in the military of the British East India Company, the particular strength, the ratio of the Indians comparatively to the Britishers were 6:1. We were having 6, while in front of them they were having the 1 soldier only. The ratio of the British among the Indian soldiers was 6:1. So here in our vast country India, many of the Indian soldiers were so much capable, but then also most probably the highest post was being secured by the Britishers only. They were always admiring and always realize us that we are insufficient, we are for no use, we are from very low. They are always admiring us that we are of nothing. So that was a great partiality done by Britishers and the British East India Company for our Indian soldiers. Now here it is being admired, there was a vast difference between the salary of the British soldier and the Indian foot soldier. We were getting, the Indian foot soldier was getting 7 rupees per month, while the British soldier were getting 150 rupees per month. There was a vast difference in the salary of the Indian soldier and the British soldiers. Apart from that, it was during the early ages, it was made a rule by the caste people, by the Indian people, that if any of the Indian soldier who is the part of the British East India Company and British Army, if they are crossing the sea, they are considered to be the outcast. But then also knowing this particular thing by the British officers, they were forcing our Indian soldiers to cross the sea, and because of that only the Indian soldier, Hindus and Muslim soldiers decided that their culture, Indian culture, is destroying by this particular just crossing the sea to have a fight with the other country or the other people, they also decided to join the revolt of 1857. Now, among these all reasons, the last reason is very important one, and we can say that this is also the failure for the revolt of 1857. That is the immediate reason. Now, in the previously, when the British East India Company was there, they formed the British Army. During that time, our Indian soldiers were also a part of the British Army. Now, before January 1857, there were the rifle used in the army, British Army. They had to separately carry a bullet bag and the gunpowder bag, and it consumes a lot of time to move that particular, and it was a heavy weight. So on January 1857, Enfield rifle was being introduced by the British East India Company and the British government in the British Army. In that particular, the immediate reason for the revolt of 1857. Now, the particular cartridge was being made by the Britishers, in which it was like a cartridge in which the gunpowder and a bullet was kept, and it was packed in that particular cartridge. Now, that particular cartridge was being greased by the fat, by the fat of cow and pig. Now, in the British Army, there were the Indian soldiers who were belonging to different religion, that was Hindu, and the Hindu soldiers were also there, and the Muslim soldiers were there in the British Army. Now, during that time, the particular cartridge which was being greased by the fat of cow and pig, for the Hindus, cow is considered to be a devotee. We are always worshipping the cow. We are always considering cow to be a god as goddesses. So, Hindu soldiers completely refuse that. They are not going to just use the particular cartridge which is being greased with the particular fat of cow, while the particular Muslim people considered a bad thing for the pig, because during that particular cartridge was being greased with the fat of pig also. So they are considering a bad indication for the pig, and they also refuse that. They are not going to use this particular cartridge, and to use that particular cartridge, they have to just cut that particular cartridge with their mouth, and because of that only the Hindu soldiers also refuse that. They are not going to use the cartridge, while the Muslim also refuse not going to use that particular cartridge. So here we have studied about the 5 reasons for the revolt of the 1857. Again, I want to repeat, that is the social and religious reasons. The second, that is economical reason. The third, that is political reason. The fourth, that is military reason. And the next, that is the fifth one, the immediate reason. Now let us study about the prominent leaders of the revolt and Mangal Pandey. Now, this particular revolt of 1857 was a planned revolt, but due to Mangal Pandey and due to just having the particular steps done by Mangal Pandey, that was being noticed by the Britishers that we are having some of the planning against them. Now here, prominent leaders who become the part of the revolt of 1857, that were Nana Sahib Peshwa, Bahadur Shah Zafar, Kunwar Singh, Nawab of Awadh. Now, the responsibility to have the commander-in-chief for the revolt of 1857 was given on the hands of Tatya Tope. Rango Bapuji was given the responsibility to plan the whole revolt of 1857. Azimullah Khan, who was by profession a lawyer and a journalist, was given the responsibility to lead the revolt. So again, I want to repeat the particular prominent leaders who played a very important role to plan, to handle, to lead, and to give their prominent guidance to the particular formation of the revolt of 1857. That was Nana Sahib Peshwa, Bahadur Shah Zafar, Kunwar Singh, Nawab of Awadh, Tatya Tope, Rango Bapuji, and Azimullah Khan. Now, for the civilians and the soldiers who were the part of British East India Company and the British government, this symbol was being given for them to join the revolt of 1857, and the symbol was lotus, and the next one, that was roti. So whosoever the civilian or the soldier want to join the revolt of 1857, they had to symbolize with lotus and roti. Now, the particular different people, that was priests, Maulvis, they were given the responsibility to spread more and more news among the people of the country India to join the revolt of 1857. Now, let us start with the next topic, that is Mangal Pandey. Now, Mangal Pandey, at the age of 26 years, joined the particular British East India Company and the British Army at the salary of 7 rupees per month. Now, this person was being born in Brahmin family, and he was belonging to Uttar Pradesh, and the village name for his birthplace was Nagwa village. Now, the Indian soldiers who had agreed to the particular revolt wanted to wait the fixed date which was being decided by the people, by the prominent leaders, by the civilians, by the soldiers. The date fixed was 31st May 1857. So all the people wanted to wait till this particular date, but Mangal Pandey, as he was having the age of 26 years, and he was a person who just joined, who was being forced by his major to just use the cartridge, and he was not able to just wait till 31st May. Now, when his Major Hussain, who was the major of his battalion, just ordered him to use the cartridge which was being greased with the fat of cow and pig, he completely refused not to use that he is not going to use this particular cartridge which they have to bite from their mouth, and then only they can use that particular cartridge. He completely refused not to use that particular cartridge, and when Major Hussain just ordered to arrest him, he just shot that particular person. Later on, he also defeated the another British officer who just came to arrest him. Later on, other people, the British officer, just ordered Indian soldiers to arrest Mangal Pandey, but they refused, as Mangal Pandey was belonging to Brahmin family. Later on, when he was being surrounded by the British soldiers, he just committed suicide. He just had the bullet on his body and committed suicide. Now here, later on, Britishers who were always thinking back for our country India, they take Mangal Pandey to hospital, and the reason behind taking Mangal Pandey to just hospital, because now they want to know the planning of the revolt of 1857. Later on, after he just had the recovery of the particular injury, he was being presented in the military court. In the whole session in the military court was being done in the English language. Later on, Mangal Pandey was given the punishment to hang till death on 18th April 1857. But as on 6th April he was given the particular punishment. 6th April 1857, a case was being filed in the military court, and he was given the punishment to hang till death. But people of Uttar Pradesh were out of control. They started having the procession, they started having the demonstration, they started having the opposition against the British East India Company to leave Mangal Pandey from the jail. And to just avoid this particular procession and the revolt of the people of Uttar Pradesh, Mangal Pandey, before the date, he was being hanged after 2 days of his case filed in the court, that was on 8th April 1857, and in the early morning, that was 5:30 a.m. in the early morning. And by this way, Mangal Pandey became the first martyr in the revolt of 1857. Now let us study about the prominent leaders who just sacrificed, who just decided to be a part of the revolt of 1857. Now first of all, we are going to study about Delhi and the ruler who was ruling during the time in the year 1857, that was Bahadur Shah Zafar. Now the soldiers that were the civilians, the soldiers who were the part of the revolt of 1857 reached Delhi from Meerut in the morning on 11th May. The intention, they just captured Delhi with the help of the Indian soldiers present there. So who were the part of the army of Bahadur Shah Zafar? With the help of the Indian soldiers, they first of all captured Delhi. Then later on, they just convinced 80-year-old Mughal Emperor Bahadur Shah Zafar to accept the leadership of the revolt. The reason behind convince Bahadur Shah Zafar was that if this particular news spreading of just this particular news of involving Bahadur Shah Zafar going to spread in all country India, most of the people are going to inspire and they are going to join the revolt of 1857. And because of that only, after capturing Delhi, they just convinced Bahadur Shah Zafar to join the revolt of 1857. Now the next topic, that is Kanpur and Nana Sahib Peshwa. Now Kanpur broke into the revolt on 4th June 1857 and Nana Sahib Peshwa was just given the responsibility to become the leadership, to accept the leadership of the revolt which was being started in Kanpur. Now here, however, they had to surrender to the Britishers. They started revolt on 4th June 1857, but Britishers just stopped the supply of food and water, and because of that only for 22 days they just fight against the Britishers. But due to the lack of the supply of food and water, Kanpur had to stop the revolt against the Britishers. Now here the next topic, that is of Bihar and Kunwar Singh. Now Kunwar Singh was not a ruler but a 70-year-old landlord who just been a part of Jagdishpur. Now during the revolt of 1857, Patna and Jagdishpur were the two main centers in the revolt in Bihar. Now here, Kunwar Singh, who was 70-year-old landlord, was also not permitted, and he was being with the policy of annexation and doctrine of lands being just suffered by the Britishers. So he decided to free Patna and Jagdishpur from the hands of the Britishers. Now during a war, when there was a war between the Britishers and Kunwar Singh, one of the British officers shoot a bullet on the hand of Kunwar Singh. To stop this particular spreading of the poison by the bullet, he just chopped his arm and just offered the chopped arm to the river Ganga. Before his death, he just freed Jagdishpur from the hands of the Britishers. Later on, about Rani Lakshmi Bai, she was also a particular victim who became with a doctrine of lands, she became the victim, and because of that only, her child, as already there was a death of her husband, and later on during that time, before the death of her husband, both of them adopted a particular child whose name was Damodar. When the procession was going on to have a particular crown system for Damodar, during that time Dalhousie came to his court, to his particular the royal court, and he just argued that as you have just got the adopted child, and adopted child is not allowed to sit on the throne with the doctrine of lands and with a policy of annexation, Jhansi was being snatched away by Dalhousie, and because that was the only reason to Rani Lakshmi Bai joined the revolt of 1857. According to Britishers, always they have got a great respect for Rani Lakshmi Bai, and they were always saying that they have never ever seen the bravest lady in the revolt of 1857. Now this lady, Rani Lakshmi Bai, have formed an army for the women to fight in the revolt of 1857. Now let us start with the next topic, that is of Tatya Tope. Now Nanasaheb Peshwa, when started on 4th June 1857 revolt in Kanpur. Now this person, as Tatya Tope was a great commander-in-chief, Nanasaheb Peshwa gave the responsibility to handle the revolt in Kanpur. For handling the army of the people in Kanpur, Nanasaheb Peshwa made Tatya Tope as the commander-in-chief in Kanpur. For the next 2 years, he played a major role in the revolt across the country. For the first time, he became the commander-in-chief in the particular revolt of the Kanpur, and Nanasaheb Peshwa got a great faith on Tatya Tope, and because of that only, he was given the responsibility to work as commander-in-chief in the revolt of 1857. Now, this person, no one in his time had fought as many battles as he did. Now here the next topic, that is the revolt of 1857 in Gujarat. Now here, from all over the country, from all over the area, the Britishers want to increase the prosperity of England by capturing the states of our country India, the princely states, the states of our country India, and by their intention to increase the prosperity, the richness of England by using the resources of our country India. Now what happened in Gujarat during the year 1857? Now here, when the British commander, that was Donovan, attacked on the fort of Bet Dwarka, the Waghels inside the fort have no artillery to counter attack during the early ages. Now in the next topic, we are going to study that what were the reasons for the failure of the revolt of 1857. As compared to the Britishers, we don't have that much weapons, we don't have that much facility to just save ourselves, to have the attack on the Britishers, and one of the reasons for the failure of the revolt of 1857 due to not having the artillery and the weapons like British officers. Now at that time, the Waghel women came up with a brave and innovative idea. Now, when the Britishers, that was Donovan with his army, started having the attack on the fort of Gujarat during that time, that was on Bet Dwarka, during that time, the ladies of Waghel women ladies just had one of the creative idea to save, as they were not having the weapons, they don't have the artilleries to save themselves from the attack. What they did, the Waghel ladies, they soaked the mattresses with water, in which they could catch the cannonballs and can cool them immediately. So without thinking about their lives, Waghel women have just soaked the mattresses, big mattresses, and later on the cannons, which was the fireball cannons, which was being released by the Britishers. They started having cooling their particular cannonballs with the help of the wet mattresses. They would have the Waghel men to fight the battle without being hit by the cannonballs. So by cooling the particular cannonballs, fireballs, they just gave the Waghel men to prepare themselves and to have different ideas to fight against the Britishers. So this particular cannonballs did not affect the Waghel men, and they did not damage by that particular cannonballs which was being released by the Britishers. These women were very bravely disarmed the cannonballs without worrying about their lives, and because of that only, this particular Waghel ladies Waghel women were known as the Lakshmi Bai, Rani Lakshmi Bai of Gujarat. Now here, how was the end of the revolt of 1857? Now already with the people, with the surrounding, each and every people having the fight by their own to just free their region from the ruling system system of the Britishers, and because of that only Britishers got a chance to recapture the particular state which was being captured by the particular person or the empire along with the help of the native, the people of that particular region or the particular state. Now, how was the end of the revolt? Within a month, the British controlled, within 1 month only, they controlled the revolt. By the end of June 1857, the Britishers were able to regain control on Banaras and Allahabad, which was being captured by the particular rulers of that particular state. So, on June 1857, Britishers were able to recapture the particular states of Banaras and Allahabad. Again, the Nanasaheb Peshwa along with Tatya Tope, who has captured the particular Kanpur, again recaptured by the end of September 1857. Now, Delhi, which was being controlled by Bahadur Shah Zafar, was being recaptured in September 1857. Now, Lucknow was recaptured in March 1858. Now, Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was ruling in Delhi and who was one of the prominent leader in the revolt of 1857, Bahadur Shah Zafar, along with his twin, with his wife, were imprisoned and exiled to Rangol, where they died after few years. Now, about Jhansi. Jhansi fell because of the treachery, that means cheating, of one of the courtiers of Jhansi. Lakshmi Bai died while fighting a battle with the British troops. So, if there was no cheating done by one of the courtiers of Jhansi, that was Rani Lakshmi Bai, then she never ever was going to defeat by the British East India Company or by the British troops. Now, about Nana Sahib Peshwa, who just fought in for the Kanpur and in the revolt of 1857, just escaped to Nepal after his final defeat against the Britishers. Now, about Tatya Tope, who was the commander-in-chief in the Kanpur revolt, that was the revolt of 1857, and one of the commander-in-chief in the revolt of 1857 was captured due to betrayal. Again, here the cheating is being done by one of the people of our country India, of one of his allies, and was held on 8th April 1859. But some sources said that he managed to escape, to run away. Actually, it is being said that he was hanged on 8th April 1859. But actually, some of the sources are saying that instead of Tatya Tope, another person was hanged till death, and he just been escaped. He just run away from the particular place where he was given the punishment to hang till death. So here we have studied about within and this particular states which was being captured by the people, by the rulers of our country India, due to not having the unity among the people of our country India, they again recaptured many of the parts which was being controlled by the rulers and the people of our country India. Now here, why was the revolt a failure? Now here are the reasons that shows us, that say us that what were the particular negative look points from our side that creates the first revolt, which was Battle of Plassey, was the first revolt against the Robert Clive by Sirajudullah with the support of Mir Zafar. Along with Robert Clive just promised Mir Zafar that he is going to make him the next Nawab of Bengal, and because of that only, with the support of Mir Zafar, Sirajudullah was being defeated, and by the Battle of Plassey, that was being considered to be the turning point for the Britishers to start their political power in our country India. While this particular revolt of 1857 was the failure one, and the reason behind that was we are the particular reason for the failure of the revolt of 1857. Now the first reason for the failure of 1857, the lack of cooperation among the rebels. Whosoever were fighting for their benefit, not for the nation. Each and every person, Rani Lakshmibai, Nana Sahib Peshwa, Tatya Tope, Bahadur Shah Zafar, and many more who were the part of the revolt of 1857, they don't have cooperation among themselves. Now here, there was not any centralized leadership who can handle the revolt of 1857. The second point, absence of centralized leadership. Each and every part, they were having their own leader and they were fighting for their own region. Now, the next one, no provision of reinforcement of men, money and weapons, as the British East India Company and British troops were having less men, but they were having lots of money, and along with lots of money they were having the latest technology weapons, and because of that only we were having the lack and the supply of less men, money and the weapons. Now revolt happened before the pre-planned day. As the date was fixed that 31st May 1857, we are going to fight against the Britishers. We are going to start the revolt of 1857. But due to Mangal Pandey on the fixed date, which was 31st May 1857, before that only, as Mangal Pandey disliked and just opposed not to use the particular cartridge which was being greased with a fat of cow and pig, and because of that only, before that date itself, Mangal Pandey just fight for this cartridge and for the revolt of 1857, and that creates a particular small intention, or we can say a strike on the mind of the Britishers. Now remain concentrated in North India only. Central India and South India was the part of the revolt of 1857, but then also most probably the concentration was being done in North India. Now here, social reformers refrained from joining the revolt. They refused, they don't want to join the revolt of 1857. Thus, intellectual class did not support revolt. The educated people did not, because social reformers don't want any of the fight, and because of that only some of the educated people did not join the revolt of 1857. Now here, many Indian leaders and kings either sided with the British or remained passive at the time of the revolt. Many of the leaders, along with many of the rulers, only some of the rulers and some of the leaders joined the revolt of 1857, while some of the leaders and some of the rulers, they don't want to be, some just being a part of the British East India Company, or some remain passive, they don't want to join the revolt of 1857. Now here, the powerful community, the powerful religion, that was Sikh and Gurkhas, fought by the side of the British. That is one of the reason also for the failure, because Sikhs and Gurkhas were fighting from the side of the Britishers. That also one of the reason for the failure of the revolt of 1857. Now here, the British had strong army, weapons and military compared to the rebels. The particular people, the Indians who were fighting for in the revolt of 1857, they comparing with that particular people, they are having a good man, their weapons and the money along with that. Apart from that, the rulers were fighting for their region, not for the nation. And by this particular point, we come to know that what is like Battle of Plassey, if Mir Zafar did not support Robert Clive to defeat Sirajuddaula, then from that time onwards, Britishers were not allowed to start their political power in our country, India. In the same way, these are the particular leaking points of our country, India, that helps the Britishers to establish their power in our country, India. Now the last topic of our content, that is effects and consequences. Now after the failure of the revolt of 1857, then we got some of the benefits. Now Britishers come to realize that if we are not going to be some liberal to the Indian people, people by one or the another way. They are going to just defeat us by one or the another satyagraha or one or the another revolt. So after the defeat or after the failure of the revolt of 1857, we get some of the 5 benefits from the British East India Company. Now the first one, company rule came to an end and India directly came under the rule of the crown system. Now here, interference of the British in the internal affairs of the princely state was being stopped. After variously subsidiary alliance policy, with the particular policy of subsidiary alliance policy, they started involving themselves into the internal and external life of the rulers. But after the defeat of this particular revolt of 1857, they just stopped interfering in the internal affairs of the princely state. Now the third point, the policies of the Britishers were compelled to revise. Now the policies, that was subsidiary alliance policy, Diwani right, divide and rule policy, doctrine of less, annexation policy, which was being started by the Britishers, there were some of the changes which are going to get the benefit for the Indian rulers and the people. Now here, the fourth one, there was an increase in the salary, allowances and other facilities for the Indian soldiers. Before the revolt of 1857, the Indian soldiers were getting only 7 rupees per month as a salary and not getting any of the facilities from the British East India Company. But after that particular revolt of 1857, there was the increase in the salary of the Indian soldiers. We were getting some of the advantages from the British East India Company. And the last one, this revolt involved a feeling of nationalism among the people of our country, India. So slowly and gradually, for 90 years, we started fighting against the Britishers because we want our India from the clutches of the Britishers. So here, I am ending with my topic. Let us have a short recap of the things which we have studied from the starting till the end. Now here, we have studied about the nationalism. That nationalism created in our country, India. The reason behind that was, there were 5 reasons that creates a nationalism in our country, India. The first one, that was social and religious reason. The second, that was economical reason. The third, that was political reason. The fourth, that was military reason. And the fifth, that was the immediate reason. In that particular immediate reason, we have studied that in January 1857, a new rifle was being introduced by the British officers and British East India Company, and that particular cartridge was being greased with a fat of cow and pig. For Hindu soldier, it was considered to be, a cow is considered to be a particular, we are always saying that all the god and goddesses are being in the cow, and because we are worshipping the cow, in the Hindu soldiers refuse not to use the cartridge. On the other side, the Muslim people consider this particular pig to be beef, and because of that also they also refused not to use the cartridge. And Mangal Pandey, that was one of the Indian soldier who was belonging to a Brahmin family. He was born in Nagwa village of Uttar Pradesh at the age of 26 years and having the salary of 7 rupees. He just opposed when Major Hussain ordered him to use the particular cartridge. He completely opposed not to use that, and because that the fixed date was 31st May. But Mangal Pandey was not able to control that particular situation, and as soon as Major Hussain ordered him to arrest him, he shoot him. Later on, he again shoot another British officer. Later on, when British soldiers just surrounded him, he shoot and committed suicide. Later on, he was taken, that Mangal Pandey, to the hospital where he got the treatment. The reason behind taking Mangal Pandey to the hospital, because now Britishers want to know about the particular revolt of 1857, want to get the information about the revolt revolt of 1857. On 6th April 1857, military court was being held to give the punishment to Mangal Pandey, in which the whole session was in English only, in the English language, in which on 6th April 1857, Mangal Pandey was given the punishment to hang till death. Later on, the date was fixed, that was 18th April 1857. But as the people of Uttar Pradesh was out of control and was opposing the arrest of Mangal Pandey, before the fixed date, he was hanged in the early morning, that was time 5:30 a.m. on 8th April 1857. And by this way, Mangal Pandey became the first martyr in the revolt of 1857. Then we have just studied about the spread of the revolt and about the leaders, that was Bahadur Shah Zafar, then Nana Sahib Peshwa, then we have studied about Kunwar Singh, then Rani Lakshmi Bai, Tatia Tope, and many more, who have sacrificed their life for the freedom of their region. But the negative point was that they were fighting for their own region, not for the nation. Then we have studied about the revolt of 1857 in Gujarat, in which Wagir ladies, Wagir women have worked out once Donovan decided to have an attack on Bet Dwarka, and Wagir women were, without considering their lives to be precious, without thinking about their lives, they just weighed the particular mattresses and start stopping the mattresses by using the mattresses. They stopped the fire cannons being attacked by the British army, and by this way they helped the Wagir men to take a time and to fight against the British officers and the British troops. Then we have studied about how was the end of the revolt by the particular states, that was Jhansi, Kanpur, Delhi, which was being secured by the people, was again recaptured in within few months and within few days by the British and British troops. And the reason behind that was we were not united. Then we have studied about the reasons for the failure of the revolt of 1857. If during that time we all get united and we, not for the region, we start fighting for the nation to free our India from the clutches of the Britishers, then for 90 years they can't rule in our country India. Later on, revolt of 1857 was the failure one, but then also after the revolt of 1857 we got some of the benefits from the British East India Company. So again I want to tell you that if we get united we can rule anything, but if we divided we can't do anything. The revolt of 1857 was the failure one, and the reason behind that was we were not united. We were fighting for our region, for our empire, not for the nation, and because of that only we were considered to be the failure one for the first revolt, that was the revolt of 1857. So here I am ending with my topic. Thank you and have a nice day.